With the help of the Grable Foundation, we at IU8 are working to help our local community gain a better understanding of local industries, the kinds of employment available, and the STEM skills students are learning in school that will lead them to success in these types of jobs. Funders include PDE, the Penguins Foundation, UPMC, the Grable Foundation, and our local CSB2 Squared STEM ecosystem. The STEM Lending Center contains a wide variety of equipment, puzzles, games, and other activities that are helpful for teaching students problem-solving skills and techniques. A part of our project is to make connections between student learning and on-the-job skills that are valuable in local industries. Our first visit was to McLanahan Corporation in Hollidaysburg, PA. The Hollidaysburg location of McLanahan contains the corporate offices as well as a large shop facilities in which they manufacture and sometimes repair large equipment that is used in the mining and agricultural industries.
I am Jason Yoder, and I am a CNC and Manual machine operator.
All right. And you've been doing this job for how long?
At the end of August, it'll be 4 years. But mostly you come to your machine, you start it up, you start in your job, you're given a print, and on the print it tells you your specified size that you have to meet and whatever steps that are required. Average job on the lathe that I do out there, it could range from 4 or 5 to 6 hours depending on what job it is that the tolerances and the setups that we did in school is nothing like we do here. I mean, most of the tolerances on jobs that we learn to keep with in school would round to 15 to a 32nd, a couple thousandths. Here we have to keep a 1 to 8/10 of a thousandths tolerance.
Can you explain tolerance to somebody who has no idea what that means?
Mm-hmm. On a machine, there's specified sizes you have to meet. Mm-hmm. On diameters to inner diameters to face, starting to finish. And they give you specified sizes that you have to meet from these points. Like, let's just say I have to cut a shaft 8 inches diameter. They give you plus or minus 5 thousandths. So that means that if you check that with our equipment, if you can be 2 above, 2 under, you're good. Some jobs, depending on what it is, what it's going to, what machine it is, if it's going to another company and they're building their own machines off of it, sometimes they have to meet harder tolerances where you only get minus 1/1000 plus 0. That means you cannot be over.
So it's basically like wiggle room.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. I never thought of it that way. And every job has its own problems, stuff you have to work around. And it gives you a really good chance to adapt to any type of job. So with jobs that can range to a couple $100s to a couple grand.
Yeah.
I've done shafting over there on the Pariba that's been ranged from $18,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 shaft. So that's whenever skill, ability, and patience comes into play. Because if you're working on a job and you don't have the patience for it, and you're not taking your time to manage yourself, you can mess up in a second. Especially with the Greater Altoona Tech Center, I took precision machining. One thing I can say is that they teach you the basics of the basics. So if you would get a job in that field whenever you graduated, you'd be able to figure it out. How to work with other coworkers.
That's good. Okay.
Because whenever you're first getting out of school and you didn't have another job, you're just getting straight out of school into a workplace, there's certain things that you have to understand that they don't always teach you in school. But the one thing that CTC did do was it gave you a first-hand experience in working with other people. Having patience for other people, the right way to communicate with your supervisors and coworkers to a respectable level, so that you're not always arguing with each other, not always butting heads, that nothing is personal in a workplace. What happens in a workplace stays in a workplace, and then you go home at the end of the day. You shouldn't have to worry about it.
Does the CTC help place you? Or does McLanahan recruit from CTC or what?
But they work hand in hand.
Okay.
I learn something new every day.
Right.
Not trying to be funny or anything like that. I walk in here and I'm on different parts. That machine that part that's up there on my machine right now, that's the first time I've messed with it. I set it up yesterday, figured out how plan of execution, I started working on it.
Nice.
So there's always something new. It's not monotonous work, because I probably wouldn't be as happy to come to work if I was stuck on the same machine that I
Right.
was hired on.
Yeah.
You've mentioned coding a couple times. What does coding look like for you?
On a program, it can range to lines, and every line it has a certain step,
Mm-hmm.
like an M1 code and then a G code and stuff like that. And what it is that whatever line you're on, the machine will follow the step that's given.
Absolutely. Okay.
Like, let's just say that your machine has a center line, a home setup, which means your X and your Y and your Z are at 0.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd go to your next line in your program, it could say your X would have to go to 68 inches. Your head or whatever cutting tool would move to that position that's given.
Okay.
And each line, it'll change the direction of the head. I've made programs that are around 2,000 lines, and I've written them out in a day's period.
The role of a machinist doesn't usually involve higher education, but relies mostly on on-the-job training to extend the capabilities of employees. Special thanks to McLanahan Corporation as well as Jason for having a chat with us about his job and what McLanahan does in the local area.